Hi again then guys, and welcome to another circuit setup, of course, from the 1.28 batch of vehicles. In particular, this one obviously is the Alfa Romeo Giulia, the TZ2, a car which of course I predicted would come back, most likely. Kind of the black sheep, if you will, of the high rollers. Not that it's bad, but that it's so niched, even for a classic race car in terms of its performance and what it's good for, that the vast majority of players, even if you do have the 10 million to spare, you probably won't find yourself using it all that much. Now, with that being said, I can completely understand if someone just likes the car and just wants it anyway. For me, that's like the Daytona Cobra. Even if the Daytona was trash, I still just love it. As it turns out, it's brilliant. Likewise with this one, it has its uses, and the primary advantage of this car is how quick it is through corners. Not just the handling, but how fast it is through tight circuits. Now, to highlight what it can do, unlike most of my other high rollers tunes, we're not taking it to Le Mans because it just can't compete. It's around 15 seconds slower than my tune for the Ferrari 250 GTO. And the Ferrari isn't all that quick either. So if this is that much slower, it can get up around 165 miles per hour with this particular setup. So it's not slow. I mean, that's good for its power, but it's no way near quick enough on tracks like that to take on your Ferrari P4s, your Ford Mark IVs. Of course not. It's just, like I said, a more niched approach. Now, as far as the upgrades go, as I have with all of my high rollers, I've not upgraded the weight or the power at all, to show you what it can do straight off the bat. So if you choose to upgrade it, of course, it will be even quicker. And potentially, if you do increase the power in particular, you might actually be able to use this to compete at Le Mans, depending on how quick you can make it go. But as I said, this is just to give you some idea of how quick it can already be. Now, as far as the weight, we've dropped it as far as you can go without upgrading it. Likewise with the power, increased it. Traction you really do not need on this car, but of course that's down to you. Racing hard tyres, just to show what it can do under general circumstances. As far as the suspension, I've got the ride height on 80mm. 2.75 for the frequency, 5 on anti-roll, 56 on the compression side of the dampers, with 85 on the rebound, neutral camber, neutral toe. You definitely don't need it on this car. For the downforce, of course, it does depend on the track. For this particular tune, and on this particular circuit that we'll go to in a second, I'm using full downforce, which is what I'd recommend most of the time, because, as I said, it is a cornering missile, so you may as well have the handling as good as it can be. If, however, you want more top speed to get it up, as I said, around 165, 170, then you'll want to drop that as low as it can go. And as far as the diff, I've gone for the lowest initial torque, and then, as you can see, the highest for both acceleration and braking. And finally, for the gearbox, which again, of course, will vary depending on the power that you're running, I've got an auto setting of 180 miles per hour, then individual gears of 25-25, 15-50, 11-25, 8-75 and 7-25, with a final drive of 42-50. And of course you will want to extend those a bit more if you do choose to increase the power. Now, as far as what it can do, what it looks like in action, the cornering speeds, let's take it out to my common test track for my builds, Dragon Trail, to see how it compares. Now, as I mentioned, you really do need to be selective as far as what track you choose to use this car on. If you take it around somewhere like Le Mans without upgrading the power, you are, as I mentioned earlier, looking at around 10 to 15 seconds slower pacing than something like the Ferrari 250 GTO, and that's with or without the chicanes, so it just cannot compete with the current power that it's got. In particular, the acceleration is what takes too long for it to be really good. However, if you take it on a circuit such as here at Dragon Trail, that is where it really comes into play, because it's not about top-end speed, it's about that average speed over the course of a whole lap through lots of tight technical corners. Now with this tune, it turns the car basically into a Red Bull, in as much as the car can be pushed much harder than you think it can. The car, in effect, is better than you to begin with. So this isn't one of those vehicles that you need to keep under control like a Porsche or learn how to use it like an NSX. The car is ready to go. You need to keep up with what the car is already capable of instead of the other way around. Now, as far as lap times, as you can see, my first lap was a 154, then a 153, then a 152. So in terms of potential, if you compare it to other Group X cars, it's not as quick. Again, it's about 4 seconds slower than the 250 GTO around this track. But to put it into perspective, if you compare that to what it actually is, which is an N200 level machine, or it would be, that's 7 seconds quicker than my N200 Honda NSX from yesterday. And that has well over 200 horsepower compared to this one's 193, or whatever it is. So the reality is, it's really fast, it's just, as I said, far too niched for its own good in the current scheme of the game. But overall, if you do decide to use the tune, I hope you have a ton of fun with it, and of course you can click right here on screen to see all of my tunes for GT Sport. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.